My name is Lynn Hedges, and I live in Mason, Texas, and I quilt with the Voca quilting group. And this is the very first quilt that I put in to be quilted with the ladies. So this was my first one. It was one of the first quilts that I made, and so I'm really proud of it because I didn't ever think I'd be able to do this. And if you can see all these little stitches, this is drawn on with a pen like this. This is a magic pen, and you can draw with it. And you put a stencil down, and then you draw the pattern on. You can see kind of like this. And this pen marks, this might be empty. Then you take an iron, and you iron it, and it disappears. It's magic. So the whole, before you quilt, and you can see all the little stitches, these are hearts around it. So you marked all this fabric on this side with your pen, and then after the whole thing is quilted, then you iron it and all those little marks go away, and then you have your beautiful quilting. And this quilt is made with 30 reproduction fabrics, and I wanted something that looked like something my grandmother might make. And the name of the quilt is Goodnight Irene, and I quilted it with hearts and flowers because I collect hearts and I love flowers, and I tried to use fabrics that had lots of little flowers in it because it just makes me happy. To get started, this is put on a quilt frame, and the piece of back fabric is stretched on, and then there's batting in between, and then the top piece, the quilt top, is put on, and it's pinned down each side and down this side. And there's usually 2 or 3 people that sit at each end, and you start quilting on this end. And as you get about a hand and a half's worth in, then you turn it. You take the pins out and you turn. So they're working from that end, and we're working from this end. And every week you might get one turn, maybe not a turn, depending on how much you're doing. And so it takes about 6 months. And by the end of the 6 months, we're in the middle of the quilt. And they've rolled it from that direction, and they've rolled it from this direction, and we get to the center, and you're down to just one little spot. And then when you finally finish that, then you take it off the quilt frame, and ta-da, you have your whole quilt.
My name is Karon McWilliams. I live in Fredonia, Texas, which is just about 6 minutes away from Voca. Born and raised in Voca. Joined the Voca Quilting Club in 2013 when I retired. I'd always wanted to be in the quilting club, and so when I retired, I was in the quilting club. This is the very first quilt that I had the quilting club quilt. It's called a triple Irish chain. It's a color wash. Meant that when you look at it, your eye didn't stop on one color. It just kind of goes to the next one. It's called color wash. And then I did the cross hatch, which is a very familiar quilting pattern for hand quilting. And then the cross hatch in here with the feathers. These are called feathers in quilting. Hand quilting is kind of becoming a lost art. We have about 10 ladies in our club now. When my mother was coming to the local quilting club, there was enough ladies that they would have 8 on each side. They did this way, and they just quilted like this. We can spread out a little bit and do a little bit more moving in it because we don't have the 2 or 3 ladies on each side. But there used to be lots of ladies with Voca. Our quilting club came into existence in 1947 whenever the local preacher and his family's house burned out. And it was winter, and they needed quilts. Back then, you needed quilts to stay warm. So they all got together and quilted quilts for the family. And whenever it was finished, they said, we enjoyed this so much. And so they met once a week from then on, and we've been meeting once a week. We meet on Wednesdays every week.
I'm Sharon Self, and this is my quilt that I made. It's called Grandmother's Choice. I was living in Georgia, and I went to a class by a fairly famous lady who teaches. Most people would not know her, but I took as many scraps as I could because this was not what I wanted to do. There was another one she was teaching. That's the one I thought I wanted to do. And I made 4 or 5 rows, put it up, and forgot about it. When I moved to Texas, I was moving my quilting room and I found it. And I needed a quilt to put up to be quilted, and we looked at it, my sister and I, and we decided this one would be a good one to do. It would be easy to, there are certain quilts that don't lend themselves to hand quilting. There's too many seams. You can't have too many seams, it's too difficult. And so I finished this one. I even had all the blocks already cut. I finished this one and took it and did it. And I started this about 2008, finished it in 2021. So
Wow.
we put it up in 2021, actually finished it in 2022, so we just finished. But this is one that was made in 1947 by the ladies when they first started, and they embroidered their names on the ones that were in the club in 1947. And so one of our ladies in I think she was in 1996 or 7, she redid this quilt and put the ladies that were in the quilting group at that time, and that's what this is.